Councilmember Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Comnic.
Here.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Here.
Mayor Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Cullimer is absent.
Hey, before we move on, I'd like to ask everybody in attendance, if you have your cell phones, to please make sure they are silenced. At this time, I'd like to ask everybody in attendance to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence in honor of our troops. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The following items have been placed on the consent agenda are routine in nature and will be passed with one vote of the council. Should any member of the council or the audience wish to have an item removed from the consent agenda for individual consideration, please say so now. It will be removed and considered following the approval of the remaining consent items. Consent items include minutes from the council meeting on November 10th, 2025, payroll for the pay period ending November 15th in the amount of $255,864.09, and staff reports. Do we have a motion to approve consent agenda items?
So move.
Second. Call the roll.
Councilmember Comnic.
Aye.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Mayor Moore.
Aye. Next, we have approval of the bills for November 24th in the amount of $532,297.27. Do we have a motion to approve payment of the bills?
So moved. Second.
And any discussion?
I do have some questions. I'll get to those. The Public Works dash cam and GPS, are we adding a dash cam for Public Works vehicles, or what are we doing with those? Just curious, Chris.
Hey, how are you, buddy? Yeah, so that dash cam and GPS setup, that is basically just an experiment at this point. We were considering going with like a long-term subscription service for 12 vehicles after looking at the extent of our fleet and what that could provide versus what we could potentially do ourselves. It just didn't make any sense to go with the service provider that we were looking at. And so this was that first foray into, hey, let's try out this stuff. It's cheap. If it works, great. We'll scale it up. But yeah, that's what we're doing.
What's your goal? Just curious. Data collection? Is this kind of a little organic thought process of city detect or something different?
Yeah, it's primarily to be able to track fuel usage on and off road,
Okay.
Which it should pay for itself just from that, and then it also gives us, because of the way it connects to the vehicle, it gives us the ability to get onboard diagnostics, and so it provides a lot more information to our fleet manager to be able to help troubleshoot, remotely over the phone potentially, and other benefits like that. So
Great.
yeah, it's just an experiment at this point.
Yeah, you said that off-road vehicle. Tell us again. We don't tax. It's taxed differently, or we don't pay into the motor fuels tax for off-road fuel usage.
Yeah, off-road, off-highway use is
Off-highway.
actually classified. Yeah, off-highway use. Right now, all of our off-highway vehicles are pulling fuel from the same tanks as all of our other vehicles, and we're not going through that final step of reclaiming that. And part of that is because we don't have that clear dividing line yet of what is off-highway versus on-highway, and the record-keeping requirements that are required to reclaim that money from the state. And so this is a step in that direction to be able to get there and to definitively prove that while this vehicle is idling off-road, yes, that is off highway use and therefore reclaimable.
Great, great. So plug here, Francis Park improvements, 111,000. And other work out there at Francis Park with the OSLAD grant, 73,000. Those are all together. Those are complete.
Yes, the work, that's specifically for the work on the pavilion and its foundation. And yeah, I've just scheduled a final punch list walkthrough for December 1st.
Awesome, awesome. Sludge hauling. Can you tell us about sludge hauling? $25,000 for hauling, and then another 13, if I can get my iPad to show it, for tractor rental for the sludge hauling.
Yeah, so the 25,000 is your typical annual sludge hauling that you would be paying for. I think we budgeted 24,000 for it, and ended up being slightly over that. They annually produce that cost. Then the 13,000 for the tractor, that is because the vehicle that they typically would use for sludge hauling broke down, and so because of the tight time window of getting a piece of equipment in that could do the job and filling that gap in the tight time window that we had, that was their best option, and so our wastewater treatment people made that decision to bring that piece of equipment in and finish the job.
And that was a rental, though?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that fair market value for rent? I mean, how long did we use that?
It
Seems kind of steep.
Very expensive.
Yeah, it's a little high for a tractor. I'm not exactly sure what type of tractor it was or why exactly it was short notice. It had the right hydraulics or PTO that they needed to equip their. And there will be another cost with this. The spreader that they had to hook up to it, that ended up being a separate rental cost as well.
Yeah.
So if that one's not on there, then it will be on next one.
Okay. Hutchinson. I've only got this one highlighted on here. Just to key me to ask, downtown plans, when are we proposing to see a brief here of what those plans look like, and when we will be ready to release a request for bids so we can actually be ready to start work in the spring?
I was originally planning to do one tonight. I ended up switching out for Safe Routes to School.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for some final numbers to come back before I can give a presentation on it'll be similar to the Safe Routes that I'm doing tonight. The gap that's there in funding from the original engineering estimate to what we see today and how we close that. But I wasn't able to get concrete numbers back yet, so I didn't want to start throwing around rough estimates there. Because like you said, we want to get to that point where we're progressing, we're no longer in this how do we figure it out stage.
Right.
And so 2 weeks from now we should have a good presentation on that.
Awesome. All right, cool, thanks. I think that's all I had for you. I just had a question for Chief. For fire. Just the ISO class. Is this International Standards Organization class, or kind of what are we doing with that? Yeah.
Chief went home, not feeling well, so.
Yeah, I know something's going around. The Winmont Park Silt Mapping Survey. So I saw that come through, and are you all up to speed on all the agreements that had been made last year with the Park District, and kind of what that silt is about?
I've just started to get a handle on this one. I'm going to have to meet with the park and see what their take is on it. But it seems pretty straightforward at this point, and I think I can get more clarity on what the city's responsibility is there versus what the park's going to cover.
So one of the only reasons I just bring it up to share with you, kind of one of the concepts was the silt is being generated by our storm runoff into. Of course, that's a plausible possibility amongst other sources of silt, but the idea of installing a baffle system or something that can retain the silt before it gets into the pond, and then we can pump it from there. So just kind of fill you in a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I think, you know, something like that would definitely be covered in our like sewer improvement budget. And I think it's a good place to start looking, especially when we see this happening repeatedly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Comnic.
Aye.
Mayor Moore.
Aye. We will move on to public comments. If there's anyone who wishes to address the council regarding anything not on the agenda, please step up to the microphone, state your name, and please keep in mind that there's a 3-minute time limit per speaker. We have no public comments, so we will move on to new business. We are going to open up with a public hearing on source water improvement project and lead service line replacement. The city is making every effort to comply with Illinois law and Illinois Environmental Protection Agency regulations. The hearing tonight is a requirement of the IEPA as well as the city's attempts to remain open and transparent with our citizens. Scott, I had some questions.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
With the fact that Gary Bradley is no longer with this city, is that going to require that we resubmit any of this paperwork?
No.
Okay.
No, this is just for final planning approval. This is really the final step in the planning approval is the IEPA has made their environmental impact and publicly notified everybody. There's a 10-day comment period after this hearing. And then they'll take any comments like that, they'll finalize their environmental determination, and then that will finalize the project planning process, which means you'll have project planning approval, which is really just a major hurdle to get over in the project funding aspect. So from there, that will wrap up that piece. We'll go from there into, we've already started on the construction plans, getting a construction permit, and then the intended funding list will come out, the preliminary one in June of this year. And we anticipate that you guys will be on that intended funding list, and that's where you'll know what funding is available for your project and if there's a principal forgiveness aspect part of that. And then from there, we jump into the actual loan applications and all of the final paperwork that would go on at that point.
And then, I know it's been brought up and do we actually need to purchase portable generators, or is rental, as long as we can acquire them within 48 hours, is that a possibility?
So this one has been a question that we had worked through with Gary and what the city wanted. The IEPA had pushed you guys in this direction through their facility inspection. I don't know if it came up in the last inspection. I think it was the last inspection. It was a lower tiered item, but it was an item that was on there that they wanted you guys to address as backup power. The city has felt like they addressed backup power by having redundant power company power services to the facilities themselves. So they're fed from two different utilities, and felt like that provided your redundancy in that. And the IEPA said that did not. So the proposal was, the next step was to do these generator hookups and then not purchase the generators because they're very large, and from what Gary had mentioned, you never needed them in the past. So they felt like stopping short of not doing a complete on-site generator was the way to go there. The IEPA has never stated that they would fully accept that as the complete solution. but it does meet the requirements if you're within that 48 hours from what we've seen there. I think it would be something that we would want to discuss with them further on the construction plans, just to make sure. The good news is the step that you're taking isn't a waste of anything. If you have to go the next step to purchasing and having them there the whole time, you can do that. And that would even save money to have one for each facility that you could stay on a trailer and keep hooked up. It's just the next step is the question of whether they push you there beyond this first step.
Then the funding nomination form, section 13A, it requests a violation number, but there was not one listed in that section. Is that something we need to go back and correct?
We will want to make sure that we note them correctly there's not a true violation or open violation for you because you've been referred to the Attorney General and you're in that process. But we'll want to make sure that that's clear when we submit the final funding nomination form, which is the one that will be submitted in March. That one goes along with the project plan. It's kind of a preliminary nomination form, but we'll have to submit another one in that period, which is essentially you have to submit that form prior to March 31st to be in line for the intended funding plan that they announce in June and July.
Then it was recommended that we replace 1,000 linear feet of water main annually, but that doesn't meet the industry standard of 1%. How much more do we need to replace to meet the industry standard?
Usually what you would like to do is replace the amount of water main that would turn the entire system over within its usable life. So we typically look at water main around 75 years with current standards with plastic and stuff like that. What we've seen a lot of communities do is use more 100 years. So you'd have to be looking at around 10% of your system annually as a replacement to stay on track to be able to turn your system over so that it's replaced and you're not having pipe out there that's beyond its reasonable life. The problem is that's an exceptionally large amount of water main and a very large cost. So really what we were trying to do there with the 1,000 feet is start the process, get you guys used to replacing water main on a yearly basis. And as funding becomes available and as you work into this program and take care of some of the other priorities that you have, you start replacing more and more as you go.
And the same question with the water valves. You recommend replacing 5, but that still doesn't meet the industry standard of 1%.
Yeah, it would be the same thing on 1% there. And for the 5, it's a little deceiving because you're going to get those 5 that we talked about were outside of what your water main replacement would be. So you're going to get valves as a part of the water main replacement too. So any valves that were in or touched by the water main replacement, those would be replaced as the water main program. And then you've got 5 extra that you can go after. What I would say are top priority valves that you need for your flushing program, valves that your guys have been out there and know that are very critical for isolation of this part of the system. And you can go get those right away and not have to wait for that main to be within that program period. So, and again, it's a little bit of a starting process as we go in making it the rate increase palatable for everybody, knowing that budgets are tight, but getting the program started so that you've got it started and you add to it as you go along the years as you go along.
And it's estimated that we're leaking up to 30% of water.
Yeah, that's the current estimates. That's a number that was provided within the reporting that Gary had, and that we did not try to calculate that directly. It was in the IEPA inspection forms, but it is something that is close to what we were seeing back when you guys were really dialing in on that water loss. When you were dealing with the chloride issues and your previous city engineer, Dale, I think it got down to 20% at the best, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, what are they, you went down to about 15%, I think I read?
That's what they got, or that's where you guys got to?
I thought that's where they wanted it down to.
I mean, the state and industry would love to see 10 to 15%. I'll tell you that's a big number for a lot of communities to hit. A lot of communities that we see are struggling, as you guys are. And then also there's some of that water that we would really, before you guys got into a heavy water loss reduction program, we would really want to vest those numbers closer. And by doing that, you really have to track your non-revenue water. You know, what isn't metered? What and how are we capturing that water? Because those numbers come from water leaving the plant and water you build, right? And the difference between the two. And how much of that is non-revenue water from flushing hydrants, fighting fires. Maybe the park district has a yard hydrant that's not metered for whatever reason. Or, you know, there even could be some backwash within the plant that isn't captured completely. But, you know, you'd want to audit that to make sure. But, yeah, I would suspect with the age of your system and that you're right around that 25% lost water just because of the age of your system that you have.
Is there any way to calculate the expense of that lost water?
Absolutely. I mean, the really rough way to do it is just your current dollars per gallon, right, of what you're charging is a real rough way to do it because, you know that you need that revenue to pay for the water that you created. So that's just a really rough number that you can use and see.
You guys have any questions while Scott's still here?
No, you answered or asked the ones I had, so.
Thank you, Scott.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll start public hearing. Let's say we have some comments from the public on this matter. Close our public hearing on water source improvement project. We'll move on to a presentation. Jennifer Prescott, Kewanee Deputy Assessor, discussing the EAV. This is a presentation, by Jennifer. Jennifer will be discussing the EAV, or estimated assessed valuation. Welcome, Jennifer.
Maybe not for the, try and use the microphone just because of the Facebook.
I can just move closer.
Or whichever. Yeah.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
This is super important for everybody at home.
Yes, great, thank you. Well, like you said, Gary, I am Jennifer Prescott, and I am the Township Assessor. I've been elected since 2006, and this is Deanna, the Deputy Assessor for Kewanee Township. I had a message that you wanted to talk about the EAV for Kewanee Township.
We would love to have that discussion.
Okay. Now, I'm not sure that is exactly, we're on the right wavelength. So you had some forms that we sent you. Do you want to take it to the next one? This is for 2022. Is that what you were talking about with the exemptions? Is that how you wanted it, or did you want to know about the equalization factors? Because when I think of EAV, it's the equalized assessed value, and that is when we have the assessed value from the board, and this is the estimated. So we've got the assessed value here, and that is the market value divided by 3, or that's 0.333. We take off the exemptions, we add that state assessed there as railroads, and that equals the equalized assessed value. So the exemptions are things like our homestead, it's our homeowners exemptions, it's our senior freezes. So that is the EAV. Is that what you're talking about, is what you wanted? Because I do have another one we can go where I have simplified it quite a bit. Where we have the market value here, I have a home, like a home value for market was 120,000. I divided it by a third, 40,000. I took off a homeowner's exemption, which is 6,000, so that makes our EAV 34,000. And then we come down to another house that's 180,000 market value. The assessed value is 60. It's a senior citizen living in it. So we have the homeowners and a homestead exemption, so we take off 11,000. So their equalized assessed value is 49,000. Is that the type of information you are wanting, or did you want to know more about the equalization factors that we're getting put on through a sales ratio study?
Well, I'm going to refer this to somebody else because I didn't even know that you were scheduled to come until I read the packet, so I don't know who actually requested it.
Okay.
Guilty.
Okay. Well, I love to talk. I love to talk about this, but I really feel like as I'm writing this out and I'm thinking, do they really want to know about exemptions, which is an interesting topic in itself because we do have the homeowners, the homestead for over 65, senior freezes. There's different exemptions. I'm putting my hand in front of that. Disabled veterans, different exemptions. But then when we come into it now of why our assessments are going up and why people are angry at me, which I only put assessed values on properties. I do not, as you guys know, do not put the taxes on properties, on their property. So I love talking about it. So if there's anything that I can answer for you, is that the direction if you're guilty of this, is that the direction you wanted to go, or did you want to know exemptions, or where can we?
Sure.
Where can we go?
All of it. So first I want to say thank you very much.
Sure.
For stepping into the hot seat.
Oh, I don't have a problem.
No. So really, what we want to start opening up the conversation for, educating ourselves as a user of EAV. It is, and I am meaning your equalized assessed valuation, because it is directly related to our revenue generation.
Yes.
So we do want to go there. We do want to talk about, what influences a township assessor's processes for applying assessments. So one of the questions that I do have written down for you to kind of gauge where our current understanding is and kind of how we want to learn from you and is residential versus retail assessments, mixed use, like when there are one property that might have both a residence and a retail space underneath, largely downtown, but there's other places like that. And then in general, how we can work down the road with TIF. And when we do...
Okay, I'm sorry, yes, yes.
So just open conversation.
Okay, yes.
We don't want to back into a corner.
Yeah, no, okay.
For sure.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, we feel like, and I want to emphasize we feel like that some of our TIF investments haven't had the return on that investment that we might hope.
Okay.
So we want to understand your world of work.
Okay.
And we want our community to understand your world of work. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
And just to add one more tidbit there, when I did speak about residential versus retail, my very unscientific atom poll of tax data does lead me to feel like I see that retail valuations are not representing their fair share of our community as opposed to residential. It appears that our residential community may be paying more than they are on, what do I want to say? The ratio that they are paying in terms of taxes has been escalating at a faster rate than retail spaces. So we want to understand that too.
Okay. Well, the sheer volume,
Not volume, I'm speaking about percentages.
Okay.
I'm speaking about like if I take 10 residential properties,
okay.
they have appreciated at nearly
Okay.
50 to 100% over the last decade, and retail spaces have either stagnated or the greatest appreciation in EAV that I've seen from our retail spaces are about 4 to 5%.
and that's what the sales have shown.
So we are truly
That's truly sales.
well, when we go to our Chamber of Commerce, they are touting greater sales every year. So the sales.
The sales in there are higher, yes, but there are not as many of them. And I, as a quad year, I can only make true adjustments on a quad year. So that will be, the next one of mine in Kewanee is 27.
Sure, we just went through one, right?
Yes, we did.
In 23.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
when everybody got the
Yes, when
wonderful
when
letters.
everybody gets those lovely notices, now Weathersfield just had theirs.
Sure.
Yes.
Yep.
So the next time I can go through and do an actual, okay, we're doing the square foot basis, I can actually go through and make it, is in 27.
Okay, so I do have a question tied with that. So if there were a hypothetical business in our downtown district that applied for a tax incremental financing project that is perhaps targeted at helping them renovate their building, and in our minds it's going to diversify and secure our taxable base. If they don't sell anything, if they don't have sales tax data, it's not going to impact their EAV?
I'm
Or
not.
not as heavily. I don't want to say.
I don't look at that at all.
You don't look at.
I do nothing with the TIF. I put an assessment on a
Not TIF,
building.
I'm speaking about like the evaluation of their property.
Their property
Is always.
is a building. It's a building. An example, my parents had a laundromat. They had equipment in there,
Sure.
but that equipment didn't mean anything. It was a building. It was the square footage of a building, and that's what was assessed. Because the building can leave, the equipment can leave at any time.
We're not speaking about, so TIF is not used for equipment.
No,
Yeah.
TIF is, but as far as in the assessing world, I've been in classes for 20 years. I have never taken a class on TIF because it's not in my, I put a value on the building.
Yeah.
I don't look at the business. I put a value on a building.
Can you tell us what would impact the value of the building?
Square foot and sales of other buildings in the area.
So if there's no sales, then we will never
Then I'll have to find comparables.
We
and
could
that-
build a
and that's-
building out of gold, and if it never sells,
Then I'd have to find comparables in the area. Yes, exactly. Yes, I call
okay,
that
so
the
when you
golden
said
toilet.
sales, that's it. So there's 3 ways that we can assess a property valuation, correct?
Yes.
Can you explain those for us?
Income, cost, and sales.
Sales of comparables.
Comparables.
Not sales within the business.
Correct.
So income. Are any of our retail businesses assessed on income?
No,
Why do we choose not to do that?
it's too hard. It's too hard to get the data. I mean, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. My position, I have 5,000 parcels, is considered part-time.
So remember, this is an educational thing.
Yeah,
We're
okay,
not-
yeah,
we're not-
I know,
I
yeah,
don't want to
but-
attack you at all.
No, I
literally just
understand.
wanna-
I understand, but it is, my position's part-time. You know, I have 5,000 parcels, I'm a mass appraiser. So I will look at a building, I will find comparables for the building, I will go into the county. You know, between the two of us, we take care of quite a few townships in our county. We can find some kind of a comparable. Or we can go to our chief county assessment office and see if she can find a comparable.
Okay. And just want to present and articulate to you, like, so if someone buys a property, a depressed property for
Yes.
$10,000,
Yes.
and we put 150 into it, next time it's assessed, we usually don't see much more than like $50,000.
I know.
But these buildings are selling for $100,000. So that's the system that we're not getting out of what we want to get out of it. And we're just looking to collaborate with you so we can understand what we can do different or what we need to know about the system.
And the thing with assessing is that it is, and I'm not going to say a guessing game, but just because you put 150,000 into it, it doesn't mean that it's all worth 150.
That's
Correct.
100.
Yes.
I accept that.
Yes. So when you're doing that, how much it's subjective on how much is it. Now, personally, I prefer to go on a lower end because as our township, Kewanee Township has gone, until very recently, all my properties have been on a lower end. Now, it's proving me wrong. I could probably not guess what a property would sell right now. And this has not been the case. The first 15 years I was an assessor, that property will sell for
And so now you're speaking about
$75,000.
residential?
Yes, yes. I could get within $10,000 where property would sell for. Now I can't because there's bidding wars, but retail is a different animal. I don't have as many retail sales. I am very happy and excited that there are people who are coming in and refurbishing our downtown, and I'm proud of that. But yeah, it is a balancing act on how we are going to assess it.
True. Okay.
And in 2007, I'm going to have to, I am adding up some now as they are fixing up the buildings. But yes, in 2007 is when I can actually
Do that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, in between the quadrennial, it's a multiplier.
Correct. Yes, equalization factor, we call it, yes.
Okay.
That is what I thought you wanted. Yes, and rehabbing, yes, when we do rehabs.
Okay. And part of the reason why we want to understand this is if we have money to invest, economically, I mean, I think traditionally we thought, or at least I thought, TIF would have the greatest return if we invested in our economic generator, our engine.
Yes.
And we do want to create jobs and tax and sales and jobs, but it didn't seem like we were attracting new. We were renovating current. And so that's why, we've also requested for our TIF attorney to come in and explain residential sources. So if you do have greater data there, maybe that's an area that would be more wise for us to consider investing in. So that's why we wanted to have this type of conversation with you.
Yes, definitely.
Do you track does the county assessors track any data in terms of residential EAV appreciation versus retail EAV appreciation?
Yes. Yes. Appreciation? From year to year, we have the data.
Yeah.
And kind of what I'm meaning, like, if you had 72,700,000 and 10 years ago, what percentage of that was represented by residential versus today? What percentage of it is represented by residential?
Yes, we do. We have breakdown sheets of them. Yes, there are. I don't give that out readily because it just opens cans of worms. I mean, if you want to have a meeting about it, we can get it back. We can get it from Henry County. Yes, we can have a one-on-one meeting.
Okay.
And I don't know if she can go as far back as 10 years, but I do have the last 3 years, I believe, right with us now.
Yeah, those would be things that we'd be interested in understanding with you because it totally goes to where we want to plan to take the city.
And
it speaks to community health, those types of ratios and numbers.
And I would think that would be something that as a community and a city, you could probably get from the county office, assessor's office yourself, just as planning. Because it has the amount of commercial properties, it has the amount of farm properties, it has the amount of, so.
100%, we could get it, but Illinois, as it was so artistically put together, we've separated
Yes.
everything that we have to partner together. So we want to partner with you. We want to understand how to operate in your world.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, and I'm very happy. I mean, I've had informational meetings before, and the only person who showed up was someone who wanted to yell at me. So, you know, it's just nice to actually have some, you know,
We've
get
done
the
that.
knowledge out there.
It would be my individual kind of straw poll assessment that on both sides of Division Street, yourself and Mr. Couple are fairly accurate in the residential space, whether, you know, most people want to
Admit it or
admit
not.
that or not. But it's in the retail that I'm most concerned. And I'm interested in investigating those ratios and what we can do. I don't know, those are my questions.
Well, considering that when you started, I didn't really know much about it, I found the whole thing very informative, to be honest.
Especially the fact where a person puts so much money into a building and doesn't really raise it. You know, so.
At least it's a delayed
Yeah.
impact assessment.
Yes, yes.
Very informative. And even that right there, just for everybody at home to understand just exactly how
Yes.
valuation's calculated and stuff.
Yes, they can't make it easy on you, you know, it's not, you don't pay off the market value, they have to take it down by 1/3 and then take the exemptions off, but, yes.
And even with the exemptions for these guys, they're taking off.
Yep,
So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
We'll go on to item C, bill number 25-108, ordinance granting a request for a variance to the maximum allowed width of a driveway to Jacob and Kelly Vershaw at 437 East Street South. This item is a request to add 6 feet to the allowed width of a driveway as allowed by city ordinance. They are making this request because of concerns of off-street parking in the 400 block of East Street South. I have a motion.
Second.
Discussion.
Seems pretty clear in the notes.
Yeah, definitely, I think we have a valid concern with, you know, traffic, and I know that section of East Street South is very narrow, so.
The only thing I kind of looked at, I think the lot's 75 feet wide, 30 is still, you know, less than half the lot, so aesthetics are going to be maintained. Safety wins the day.
And as somebody that has numerous vehicles that they try to park in a smaller driveway, I get it.
Anything else? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Comnic.
Aye.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Aye.
Mayor Moore.
Aye. And bill number 25-109, ordinance granting a special use permit to EA Real Estate for property located at 718 and 720 East 4th Street. Item D is a request for a special use permit to allow for a third residence that is zoned for 2 family dwellings. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And discussion.
I thought it was a very professional entry, well laid out.
Much better than we normally get.
100%. So, you know, more housing helps.
Yeah.
Definitely need the housing, so. Anything else? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Comnic.
Aye.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Mayor Moore.
Aye. And item E, bill number 25-110, resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into agreement with Micklig Energy Ltd. for furnishing vehicle and equipment fuel to the city of Kewanee for the year 2026. Every year the city receives bids for fuel for the upcoming year. This is done because it makes budgeting a much easier task and is shown to save taxpayer dollars. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Let's call the roll.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Comnic.
Aye.
Mayor Moore.
Aye. Item F, bill number 25-111, ordinance abating the tax therefor levied for the year 2025 to pay the principal of and interest on $3,640,000 general obligation waterworks and sewage refunding bond series 2015. Bonds are a way the city can receive funds for projects we may not have the ability to pay up front. These bonds are set up so if we cannot make the required payments, property taxes are levied to cover those bills. Every year after making the required payments, we must abate those taxes so our citizens are not charged to the increased property taxes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question to clarify. We're abating the tax that's levied, that's allowed to be levied for property taxes because this bond is being paid through fees or charged for water.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Comnic.
Aye.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Aye.
Mayor Moore.
Aye. Item G, bill number 25-112, ordinance abating the tax hereto levied for the year 2025 to pay the principal of and interest on $1,555,000 general obligation refunding bond series 2022A. This is another bond tax abatement. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Discussion on this one?
Is this also water fee? Or what are we paying for this one with?
Courtney, do you remember what this one was for? No. I think it was the same thing, something that we're already getting fees for, so we don't have to.
This one just said general obligation, so it was less clear to me that it was. Can we just know, or can we help answer that question of what other revenue source do we have to pay for this other than what we were allowed to levy?
I can get
We
you
don't
that
even know right
information.
now.
Yeah.
But I would like to know that.
Yeah.
Because it lends to, obviously, budget.
Anytime we have clarity is a good thing.
Vote. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Comnic.
Aye.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Mayor Moore.
Aye. Item H, bill number 25-113, resolution authorizing the interim city manager and interim director of finance to assess, view, and authorize transaction for all city accounts held at the State Bank of Toulon and to designate additional authorized individuals. I'm sure everyone is aware we currently have an interim city manager and interim finance director. For these two ladies to serve in these positions, they need to have access to city accounts. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Comnic.
Aye.
Mayor Moore.
Aye. And item I, bill number 25-114, resolution to appoint an IMRF authorized agent for the city of Kewanee. Some city employees have retirement funds through IMRF. To maintain the retirement accounts, the city appoints an agent to handle those accounts. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Comnic.
Aye.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Aye.
Mayor Moore.
Aye. Item J, bill number 25-115, resolution to set the dates for city council meetings for for the calendar year of 2026. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
We do, but we'll be quiet about it.
Oh, boy. That doesn't surprise me with you.
Right, you know that.
Yeah, but I'm really curious.
Right.
We'll talk later.
Yeah, so later.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Comnic?
Aye.
Councilmember Cernovich?
Aye.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes,
Lady Moore?
The plot thickens.
Right?
Aye. And we'll move on to discussion items. Item K is discussion on Public Works organizational changes. This is a discussion item concerning Public Works and the organization itself.
You got it already? Great. All right, so they say as soon as you make an org chart, you have to change it, right? So that's what I did. So this was my first crack at an org chart for Public Works. This is how I see it today based on the current roster. The main, I've been in this role for about 2 months, and I've spent a good amount of time getting to know these people, especially in fleet and facilities. I think is the main area of focus when I talk about org changes for this. So currently in fleet and facilities, we have Vic, Derek, and Melissa. Melissa's part-time, she does 10 hours, and then Vic and Derek are both full-time. They both split duties right now between fleet and facilities. And so one of the main changes that I'd like to make there is to put Derek specifically in charge of facilities and to put Vic specifically in charge of fleet. Vic is a very skilled mechanic. He never got into this to be messing with garage doors and changing light bulbs. He wants to work on things that have wheels and keep them running, and I think that's exactly where his skills align. He's been doing this for decades, and I'd love to have him focus more on just fleet. And same thing with Derek. Derek splits his time right now. He's the only one who's looking at facilities jobs that we can handle internally. And you can look around, even here in City Hall, and we just took a tour of our wastewater treatment. We've taken plenty of time. I've taken plenty of time to go around and look at the state of our facilities specifically. And I think that by putting someone with that's their only charge is let's identify all the work that we need to do to these buildings and start coordinating efforts internally and externally to make that happen. I think putting Derek there would make a lot of sense. And then on top of that, just in general, we've had some staff complaining about the overall cleanliness of the facilities. So by pushing Derek over to the facilities lead, and him having Melissa, it's just not it's not enough to get everything we need to get done. And so working with our director of community development, Keith, he suggested that one of his seasonal employees could help come in and fill in on a part-time basis to split their duties between janitorial and facilities maintenance, so that Derek has a second and sort of Melissa has a second, both at the same time. And so that would build out our facilities team to where we can have a quality and a schedule that makes sense for addressing all the things that we need to address. And so on the facility side, the budget impact would be minimal. It would be, we're essentially bringing in a single part-time employee, and we're shifting one person from fleet to facilities lead. So in that case, the budget impact's minimal. Derek would have a pay adjustment. We'd bring Jim Meeks on, and that would be it. And now for the other side, for the fleet side, since Vic would be losing Derek, we'd want to bring in a full-time heavy equipment mechanic. So the full-time equipment mechanic would then be able to perform a ton of the emergency work that we have, and any other like large repairs that take multiple days. That person could be fully dedicated to doing that job while Vic continues to manage all the rest of the fleet. And so if in the, do you have the other thing that's part of this?
What do we do now for heavy equipment?
Mostly we just contract out. So if we have a big repair or emergency repair, then we're calling a service and we're getting them to fix it.
If we hired our own mechanic for that, we wouldn't be contracting out?
Yes, that's essentially the budget strategy on this. We have maintenance service vehicle funds. These are all line 513 in the budgets across the general fund, sewer fund, sanitation, and then also the sewer fund for wastewater treatment. And then we also have a building maintenance service line for the sewer fund for wastewater treatment. All of these combined show that there's more than $170,000 remaining in unutilized or underutilized funds. The largest percentage of utilization that we have on those lines is 30%, with all of the rest of them much less than that. And so to me, that just kind of shows that we're not doing our piece in spending that money at all. We don't have a pipeline of work that goes into upkeep of all the facilities that we have. So, and then in general, we have all these lines budgeted for vehicle maintenance, and we have one full-timer and then another, well, really not one full-timer. We have two people splitting duties between fleet and facilities. So the duties that they're splitting, they're not able to get into the vehicle budgets the way we should, and the way we should be replacing parts of the frequency and the pace at which we should be doing that. And so by adding a full-timer in fleet, adding a part-timer in facilities, and making responsibilities a lot more clear, we're going to get a much better result with zero budget impact. And so for tonight, for the discussion, if you think this is a good direction to go, I can come back with a budget neutral model on exactly how we could make these changes and not expand the budget at all. And finally, the last piece there is union membership. So our fleet and facilities team is the only part of Public Works where they're not unionized. They're not part of AFSCME like the rest of every other worker that we have in Public Works. And so I had a labor meeting probably last month and sort of broached the topic then, and AFSCME seems very open to that idea, and they also seem open to adjusting job descriptions and allowing us a little bit more flexibility with the responsibilities that we assign to these people. And so that would be the final part of investigating this, is reaching out to AFSCME and saying, under this structure, what does this look like for AFSCME? Does that work for us? And does that work for the employees and fleet and facilities? I've already gauged their response to all this. They'd be more than happy to have all these changes go through, and they want to see the union deal before they take any deal. But that's my strategy there for the org changes. The only piece I didn't mention was in the water department, we have a lead man. And part of that is because they need to be a licensed water operator to hold that position. In the streets department, we don't have a lead man. There's no special license that you need for it. But the suggestion there is that the cost difference between, in the collective bargaining agreement, the cost difference between a lead man and just a regular operator is like about $1 an hour. And so, again, establishing that, it's not really about cost or even productivity. It's about laying out a clear sort of path for our truck driver laborers to see that you work your way up from a probationary employee to a full-time truck driver laborer. that gives you the opportunity to get in line as the lead man and then move over to foreman when you get that opportunity. It creates a more clear chain of command, because right now, if the streets foreman isn't around, everybody kind of looks at everybody else to get direction. And so with the lead man in place, it kind of gives us that two-pronged sort of approach that we can do. And with the recent full-time staffing increase, the full-time staffing increase in streets, I think it's necessary to create that pathway. And so, yeah, that's the extent of the organizational changes. So if you think this is a good idea, if you think that it's worth exploring, I'd be happy to come back with something a little bit more formal.
If we open the contract up for the union to do that, does that open up them to go negotiate for more money too? Like once you open a contract up, does it?
Yes.
It's everything.
Well, not for
not?
that position. I mean,
Oh,
they could negotiate only what we, if we agreed to negotiate.
Right.
Yeah, we would not agree to that. But it would if we created a position, that pay is negotiable.
Okay. So I thought it meant that okay, maybe I misunderstood. I thought you said there were some people that were not in the union and you wanted to put them in the union, right? They might.
Yeah, that could be negotiated.
Okay, that's okay.
I would be interested in seeing numbers if you add a heavy equipment mechanic. Our cost for employing that mechanic compared to the cost of contracting outside for some of the equipment that we've had repaired. Is if it's going to save us money, then I would be in favor of it. But if it's not going to save us money and we're spending extra money for on benefits package, then it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like I said, I can do a deeper dive into the numbers and come back with something that's completely cost neutral. I'd be happy to spell that out in a future presentation. And I'm not exactly sure, because we're working with an already established budget and we're looking to move lines from maintenance to personnel, how that process would actually be executed. But happy to learn.
Yeah. I would like a little clarification on the substantiation, your thought process there. Is the budget line item that pays for the external contract repair work for these vehicles one of these 513 line items?
Yeah, these are all contracted service lines. So maintenance service vehicle would be, we hire someone to provide maintenance for the vehicle.
So to date, we've spent $46,000 externally. That's
all
just
lines
roughly,
combined.
all lines combined.
That's what we're seeing. I pulled that report on the 19th. So,
and so I guess also in your analysis, I know it's going to be difficult. But to look at more years.
No.
What I meant was looking at historical data, is this year an anomaly? Do we have good data historically? That's what I mean by I know it's going to be difficult.
I think we can go back a year or two.
Right.
More than that gets
because the other thing, the fall, okay, maybe you're not repairing a lot, but you're about to get into the harsh weather months where maybe you repair more. So let's not make a decision based on half a year. Let's look at really how the trend lines come out before we start to. So I'm just asking to really start to refine some of what you're using as reasoning for making the changes before we are a little premature.
I mean, ideally 5 years,
for sure,
gives you a baseline, but I don't know. Like you said, I don't know what's possible there.
We've got audits going back to 2019 or 2018. I'm not sure if those exact lines are in it, or if it's just more high level, but that would be the first place I would start. Some of those lines are at less than 1% utilized.
One argument that would land well with me is if you're saying, hey, this is how we're going to be more consistent and proactive in maintaining these vehicles, so we're not being reactive and incurring large emergent costs at the external contractors.
Sure.
So,
yeah, and those costs are a little bit more difficult to quantify, but I totally agree that there's some intangibles here that you wouldn't see on a balance sheet that, you know, like you said, if you do preventative maintenance, it's a quarter of the cost of an emergency repair. And how much of that is slipping through the cracks right now, I'm not exactly sure. We have 100 different pieces of equipment that all need preventative maintenance, and essentially at this point, we get the oil changes done, and any bigger items get pushed off until they become an emergency.
Well, and that's kind of, you know, like, start with the manufacturer's, you know, suggested maintenance. Create a process and say, okay, like, now it's going to be scheduled out here, and it's going to take this many labor hours, and we've got that person to do it, and we're going to budget to that, and we've got a person, and all of those labor hours equate to, you know, one full-time equivalent mechanic. And if you can substantiate work in that way, I think it will land, you know, you'll have a much better chance of it landing well.
Okay, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I appreciate it, and I'll look more into it, and anything else, I'll just move on to the next thing.
Who came up with the idea for a lead man for streets? Was that your idea, or they?
It's based on my discussions with the Public Works team out there. You know, I meet with them every Monday and spend as much time as I possibly can just soaking it all in and seeing what would make sense, and some of the things that they suggest are good ideas. And this is one that I think, in my previous life experience, if there's no clear path for you to say, you know, I'm stuck at truck driver forever, you know, then it has a negative effect on your morale. It has a negative effect on your productivity, and being able to create another clearly designated person to drive productivity and to provide an example for people, I think would go a long way and have a very minimal impact on budget.
Thank you.
Can I challenge that a little bit?
Yep.
And nothing against Public Works or their positions or anything like that, but lead man in water, how long has Scott been in that position?
For
a very long time.
Yeah, more than a decade probably. Yeah.
So you're really not creating another position to get to, because you're going to put somebody there and they're going to stay there for a really long time. Unless there's like the opportunity to keep switching out that lead man or something like that.
And that could definitely be part of, you know, we have the slate is blank as to how we want to make it happen, because right now, I think, from all the sources we have, it's foreman / leadman, so it's like basically the same job. And this is not the full extent of, I think, what changes are needed, especially in the streets department. And so this would enable us to set the structure in to be able to make some higher level changes, I think, and to make bring in some fresh faces, I think, and promote from within and help people retire as well.
Personally, I'd want to see a little bit more of that.
I think your comments are right on, Casey. I mean, I agree. Like, we shouldn't create a personnel standard. I mean, of course, upward mobility for employees is certainly a consideration in any workflow or, you know, workforce design. But from our seats, we're looking at ownership, productivity, span of control, you know, those types of leadership structures. So looking at like what work needs to be done, and let's design the structure around the work that needs to be done and managed. And so just kind of make sure that we're rounding out the proposal in those areas.
Sure, yeah, and like I said before, this is essentially a second foreman for less money. Yep. So and I thank you all for your comments and your challenges, and I'll take that away and come back with some better justification as to how we how many hours do we actually have in PMs, and what does that actually cost versus what we can save? So I appreciate that.
Move on to item L, another discussion item for procurement policy updates.
So I've got, I think it's 5 things on this. I'll pull up my list just to make sure I touch on all of them. But I know the first one is the limits, the purchase thresholds. So currently our lowest one is $1,000, and it was set and it was included in the packet. The whole policy's in the packet. It was, last time it was updated was 2016. So all of those limits are probably like, they have 30% or so less purchasing power than they did when they were set. And so, you know, I'm not going to recommend any specific numbers, but the proposal that you see in front of you is roughly doubling those, so that our highest limit would go from $25,000 to $50,000. A lot of our, you know, extremely routine expenses are over $1,000 easily, and the next part of that is the quote, streamlining the quote requirements. So, and I've only been here a short time, but I've already ran into the situation a few times where it kind of feels ridiculous to spend administrative time chasing quotes for a $1,200 purchase. To where like the amount of time that you're spending getting that second quote is not justifying any savings that you might get by getting a slightly cheaper quote. So an increase in the limits and a reduction in the requirements for quoting, especially for lower purchases, I think would make everyone's life a lot easier. And then the cooperative purchasing part of it, I think it's kind of like a hidden gem within the procurement policy at this point, is that there are cooperative purchase agreements out there, and in our current policy it does mention it in one section, but I would say that we could definitely make it more front and center that this is an option for procurement, and that it is already meeting all of these competitive bid requirements, so it simplifies your time on the administrative side, just finding that and going with that. And it took some digging for me to figure that out, but I think that that we should maintain a list of all the master purchase agreements, and the ones that we would commonly use, and have that as a table or something inside of the procurement policy, and as those master agreements expire, update the procurement policy with the new master agreement number. Additionally, just more helpful information, adding like some kind of process flow chart or something at the end of the procurement policy to spell it out and make it easier for everybody to follow. Because it's not just me following it, it's not just city staff following it, it's literally everyone who has some level of purchasing power. And almost every time it's like, do we need another quote? Is this okay? Is that okay? There's always questions. It's never, Section 10 says this, so that's what I'm doing. And so that would be incredibly helpful, I think, to add that. The emergency purchasing and change orders. So especially in public works and utilities projects, this type of thing will happen quite a bit, where there's some sort of emergency, and in order to get it fixed, it's going to be well over $25,000, and it's going to be at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we have to authorize it and make it happen. So for making that more clear that those types of things are acceptable with the following conditions, and spelling out those conditions very clearly, and also simplifying those conditions. So, providing some sort of written notice within 24 hours to city manager, and then retroactively having something on the council agenda to, approve those expenses. That's basically how it works now, but I think, again, just a streamlining, modernizing effort to that would make a lot of sense. And I think that's all the points I had on it.
Chris, there was only one point I wanted to make. That $25,001 threshold comes from the municipal code for that competitive bidding process. That's not a number that we've picked. That's coming straight out of statute. Okay. So that whole process is dictated by statute. We don't have the ability to modify that. The governor had signed into law a bump to that for the schools. So their threshold is now 35,000, but we didn't get the benefit of that. So we're still locked in, having to go through that process the minute you're above 25,000.
Okay, and there
are some exceptions in the code too for certain situations, but the general rule is that 25,001.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
We can play with the numbers below that.
Sure.
We just can't, at that 25, it has to come to council.
Okay. So, yeah, and I think that's where the majority of the improvements we can make are anyway, especially with that, the lowest limit. And so anyway, the final bit on this is, I'm not asking for any adoption or vote. I'm just, do you support the general direction of modernizing the policy? And which of these areas should we prioritize? And is there anything that I specifically that you do or do not want to see in a final draft? And anything that I didn't mention maybe that you have to add?
I don't think there's anything wrong with modernizing it, I mean, we should look at policies and that throughout the years and, bring them to more current standards.
Yeah, so I had a question too, I answer ready, because I do feel like we do a lot of times have to prove everything that you all do. It's like a long process. It was brought to my attention to certain things that we have to do with the procurement laws. I know you said something about like if you had a situation at 3 o'clock in the morning, it costs more than $25,000. You said that we have to get approval before you can fix it.
You'd end up having to provide written approval within 24 hours, and the way that it's spelled out in the policy, it just doesn't seem like it's very clear how that process actually works. It's like the way it's written is like when the situation happens is the only time you would run into it, and I'm not sure that anybody would be able to just go through with it just by reading the policy. They would almost always end up dealing with aftermath after approving that expense.
I think before we have run into this, and it's usually department head talks to city manager approves. If there's any time, if there's the ability to check in with you guys, hey, do you have any big issue? Probably not, because it's an emergency.
Yeah.
And then you retroactively approve it just so that it's on record and everything. But I think it would be beneficial to have it more specifically laid out. Like department head doesn't have either allowed, like you got to have one upper approval, somebody else saying, yeah, this is an emergency. Yeah, we need to do this. And then coming back, like letting council know at first opportunity, and then letting you know it'll be on the next agenda.
And technically, at that point, the council ratifies the prior action.
Thank you. I couldn't think of it.
Exactly, and it is sort of spelled out that way now, but yeah,
it could be better.
I think you make a great point about having some level of like,
double checking,
a +1 review at some point before you go ahead and give the thumbs up on something like that.
For me as taxpayer, we have an emergency that something needs to be fixed. I like to get it fixed like right now, not the proper. So I do agree with that one. That'd be nice to get that more clear.
For me, all we're talking about is risk management.
Yeah.
All right, what's the risk of not getting what we wanted for more dollars than we wanted to spend? That's what I want you to think about when you're looking at this process. And at the end of the day, we want to make it easier for you to do your job. And so when you look in there, one of the things that I think about with quotes is not just going out and getting quotes, but how well did you put together your quote request? How specific is your scope of work? So for $5,000 and less, maybe your scope of work is investigate the air conditioner. It doesn't work. It's hot in here. Come inspect and repair. Okay, that's easy enough. But if you're going to go $100,000 for AC, we better have some much more clear and defendable scope of work with quality control measurements in there so that we can really look at and measure apples to apples different companies' bids. So that's all. So there's the latitude. I love having a fresh set of eyes with you looking at it. And where we're at from here in my mind is we weren't necessarily honoring our own system, our own process. So we're willing to give you a lot of latitude to help us modernize it.
Absolutely.
That's great to hear, and I think you made a really good point about that higher level spending, having some more like quality control attached to it. I think right now, I would have to dig into it a bit more, but like our sealed bidding requirements are pretty generic.
Right.
And so, especially related to construction projects, yeah, I think it's a great point to make sure that our sealed bids are meeting sort of minimum expectations of quality and documentation as well, as not just a clear scope of work.
I think something else that we can kind of piggyback on is our single source providers. Like, we don't necessarily need 2 to 3 quotes for our wells, because Peerless always does our wells because they know our systems, they've put them in. Yes, sir?
I agree with that, but I think the council should approve those single sources.
Yes, absolutely. Like, have a list of those that we would like to have a single source, and then you guys.
If we have a single source at that significant a magnitude, I would like to investigate and discuss with you developing a support contract package.
Yeah, I think that's a big
with a
piece
service
of it is
level.
We have a lot of single source that we don't necessarily have an agreement in place with.
Right.
And so they are our single source. Like when we need to order inlet gratings or manhole covers, we always order from Nina.
Right.
Because of the visual uniformity with all the rest of the gratings in the entire town. So like that's written in our procurement policy, that in a single sentence that says, yeah, you can get away with this for this reason. But yeah, it would be much better to say we have an agreement with Nina that they'll supply us, on average this amount per year, and we authorize that instead.
100%.
Yeah.
That's where we need to
It's
go.
like we have like contracts where you right, do that way you can go and purchase that. Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
And we especially,
Yeah.
I would say especially like any critical single suppliers, we should have an SLA in place. And I don't know if we already do. I'm just,
maybe for a couple, but
I don't think we do.
Yeah, for many we don't. So again,
Good stuff. Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you all. I got a lot of work to do now. But
And you're not done.
I love it. Yeah. No, I'm ready for the next one. If we were.
Yeah, let's move on to the safe routes to school discussion.
Yeah, thank you. So this is just a quick slideshow. There's no words. It's just all pictures. But I'll get to the words at the end. I wanted to give everybody just a nice run through because I know they're watching. And so what this is going to be is just some pictures of real life and then some pictures of the drawings. And I'll go over like the key features and then just wrap it up at the end. And so let's go to the next slide. This is the full extent of the project area. So it's maybe a little hard to see, but this is LAD. This is Lake Street going east-west here. And then all the way on the left side, on the west side, is C Avenue. So C Avenue is important because it's right across from the school. And so we'll start there. That's where the project's going to start. And before I get into the details, the project will start, and maybe some of you already heard this, but the project will start after school lets out, and it will complete before school starts. So during the summertime. So this shouldn't disrupt pickup and drop off. And the contractors who bid on this, they were made aware of that very early on. So that it's part of the contract that they be out of there by that time. So the first, like I said, the first part of the project will start at C Avenue. We'll start on the west side and we'll work west to east. And the whole point of this project is to provide a safe walking route across the north side of Lake Street. But it's not just sidewalks. Sidewalks is, I would say, less than half of the total amount that's being included in this project scope. And so if you go to the next slide, we'll see this is what the road currently looks like. This is us standing looking east from the school. So we're just past C and we're looking down towards Harbor. We're standing on Lake Street. So what I want you to notice about this is we have a typical cross section of road here. It's just a regular crown style road with the basic, very shallow drainage ditch on either side. So this is what this looks like according to the engineers. If you go to the next slide, that's it. So The next slide illustrates exactly the improvements that they're making along the whole north side of Lake Street. So go to the next one. There's all your improvements. So you can see that they're not touching the road. They're not touching the south side drainage. They're just putting in sidewalk and curb and gutter on the north side of the street. So the curb and gutter is, if you add up all the costs for curb and gutter, it's higher than the sidewalk itself. So if you go to the next slide, this is what C Avenue looks like now. Now go to the next slide. This is the proposed improvements for C Avenue. The key part to look at on this legend here is the brickwork looking stuff. That brickwork pattern is pavement replacement. So they're going to tear up the road. They're going to put in, they're going to repave essentially the entire apron of that intersection and then an extended amount into the road to create a smooth transition. But you can also see that that brick texture extends all the way up and down the length of the road. So when they put in the curb and gutter, they're going to tear up the whole north section of that road, and they're going to have to repave it when they're done. So that curb and gutter job is the biggest part of this job. And then just as a side note, it's a great crossing there up on the north, the top of this drawing. Sorry, currently it doesn't exist. So that safe crossing there, that's like the jewel in the crown here of this project is when a kid crosses that intersection and they get there safely, the whole project has been a success. And so,
is there proposed walking crosswalk signals there?
Yes, yeah. There's all types of like modern signaling, and I think it's all solar as well. So this is one of the 3 major intersections that are covered in the plan. So if you go to the next slide, the next intersection is Lake and Harbor. Now we're looking back towards the school here. So again, it's just basic. There's a basic ditch. There's the apron that they'll repave, and so you go to the next slide, and again, very similar to the first one, they plan to do the curb and gutter all the way along the whole span. You can see in the gray, that's where the sidewalk goes. This part here, and you have your transition down to that crossing over the road, and so the Harbor Street intersection looks like this. You go to the next slide. This is our final intersection. This is Lake and Cole. Pretty sure it's Cole. Lake and Cole here, again, same thing. There's no sidewalk there at all to speak of. So you go to the next slide, and there's the, again, similar intersection repaving. And now, next slide. This is where the project stops. This is the entrance to the trailer park just past Cole. So that's where we stop, and they will, if you go to the next slide, they will repave that as well. And so right after that entrance, that's where we stop. The sidewalk stops and it just goes back to grass. And so that entire span there, if you go to the next slide, again, we're looking back down this cross section, and you can see that the driveway needs to, or not the driveway, the sidewalk needs to cross all of these driveways. So if you go to the next slide, you can see that they're going to give all of these driveways the same treatment that they're giving the intersections. They're much smaller, so it's not as much work involved, but the sidewalk crosses over all of them. So it all needs to be repaved, regraded, and all of that work needs to be done during this project. And so you go to you can see this is Cole Street there, and then you're seeing driveways on both sides of Cole Street. And again, all the way up and down, the project is crossing over them. So you go to the next slide, and that's it. So the reason why I'm presenting it today is, and I'll have to pull this up on my phone. I think I put it in the packet as well, the spreadsheet with the numbers, they're highlighted. Yeah. So the Safe Routes to School grant was approved for $250,000, and back in August 25th, I believe, was the day that we passed a bill to approve some funding for that. and what we passed was $118,500. And the total cost of the project, the low bid there, is just under $536,000. So we got grant for $250K. We approved 118, and we're left with a gap of about 168 to get to the low bid. And I've spent a significant amount of time looking to see where that 118.5 came from. And I went back to the engineers and asked them, did you guys justify this? How did we come up with this number? They couldn't give me an answer on it. I'm guessing what it was based off of the estimate, but even based off of the estimate, it still doesn't get you to the estimate. The original estimate was $473,000. So we had $250 from the grant. We approved $118, which took us to $368. And that still left us with over $100,000 gap between the engineer's estimate and what we approved. So the project was supposed to be, or the project still is available for us to do, but we need to notify the contractor. I want to say it's sometime in early December 19th, I think, would be the last date that we could reasonably tell them that, yes, the project needs to proceed. So what IDOT's looking for from us right now is an email just telling them, yes, we do want this project to proceed, and yes, we will approve the funding for this project. But I wasn't going to go back to them and say, yeah, go ahead and proceed without bringing this dollar amount before the council, because essentially what I'm asking is, yes, in April we approved 118. We basically need to up that number to about 268, that the original 118 that we approved was from the non-home rule sales tax. It was from the earmarked funds specifically for paving, curb and gutter, and just for the materials and installation there. And so I looked into that fund quite a bit, and I mean the fund can absorb this project, or all the amount that we need to authorize to get the project started. And the amount that we're asking for out of that fund is 0% utilized year to date at this point. And the amount that we're asking to pull out to get this project started is probably about 25% of it. Which fund? It's the other improvements. So I don't have the number in front of me right here. The NHRST other improvements, I want to say
non-home rule sales tax, other improvements.
Yeah.
Well, so overall, in my mind, we got to get better at total visibility of our project management, because over the past 6 months we've approved, like, hey, approve this money for Hutchinson's submission of this grant, okay, for safe routes to school. So that went towards the engineering. That might not have been the only one. There's a match. Like, it's really hard for us to make any type of profound comment to you about guidance and vision when we're doing it all very piecemeal and ad hoc from meeting to meeting. So that's one thing. That's not a crack at you. I know you're doing really well in so many other areas. I'm just sharing with you, if we can do better in that regard moving forward, it would be really helpful to us, and it's what our community deserves. I'm concerned that we're going to be spending more than $310,000 for this project at the end of the day without really knowing what we've spent because of the other money that went towards the engineering efforts that aren't in this listing of costs. This is just
material.
This is just material and labor.
Yeah, the engineering cost is it should be covered by the grant with some split to us, but there's more flexibility there. So what we would do is cover the cost of the grant could cover the cost of all the engineering services that were provided. And what we would do is cover the cost of the curb and gutter, and that's the strategy there.
I recognize that, but moving forward, we have to make sure that we are incorporating grants grants aren't driving us to do different parts. Because one thing I'm looking at this, I love the sidewalk, I love the safe routes to school, I love developing that part of Lake Street. But why did it arbitrarily stop? Just because we ran out of money? Why doesn't it go to Manchester or Lakeland Terrace? Is that planned? What would it take to do that? And why did it go as far as it did? You know, did we actually achieve something? Did we really just need to cross Lake Street? Those types of things. So,
Yeah,
I think cost shares we're always willing to discuss, but if we could have a more complete understanding of what we budgeted and what this project is actually going to cost us, that would be, I think, really appreciated.
And I think we have some of those answers, and we can get those answers to you. Honestly, I think it was just a lack of total project oversight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm trying to learn
I know.
and get better.
And that's on us now too. I think Chris is going to be really good at that. That was one of the things, honestly, that we noted in his interview that he would be really good at. Yeah. So I think we're in a good place now to be able to offer that to you. Like I said, we do have some of those answers. Like in the original plan, it was supposed to go all the way down to Lakeland Terrace, and much like our downtown project, when we got the money, we could do all of these things, but because years have gone by, now that dollar doesn't go as far. So we've had to keep scaling it back, but we've tried for round 2 to get more funds to keep the project going. But like I said, we can get you a lot more of those answers. And
he's like the game too, though. I mean,
for sure. And I like, we want to make sure that we give a lot of grace here in this transition period with an eye towards where we want to go.
Absolutely.
And how we want to do business in the future. Yep. And we promised the community that the half-cent non-home rule sales tax was going to go towards streets. Here we are potentially using some of it for this project to augment it. We want to articulate that, there is a large street nexus to this.
The good thing too, like you always talk about, he has a plan now.
For sure.
And I think with him, he'll force that plan and move forward with it. So I do appreciate you coming up with something concrete that we can look and see. Yeah, we appreciate it. So thank you for that.
Sometimes in the past, it's felt like we're buying a car.
Yeah.
It's where, you need the rust proofing.
Yeah.
They come back.
Right.
Well, you want the extended warranty, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, not a knock on you, of course, but it's just, it is really hard to get a handle on management on some of these big projects.
Is 310 the last?
That's what I was trying to show there was 310 is our actual cost there. That's the amount that we could go up to before we start getting into, all right, how much of the aggregate are we splitting with the sidewalk job versus the curb job? So that's how much I feel like we could go up to. And I had Hutchison confirm this. They came back with similar numbers, but they included that 50-50 split. Anyway, the total amount, and this is the low bid's already in, like that bid's locked in. So barring any change orders, and honestly, I think it might be less because they put like variable a lot there, and they have some nice round numbers on some of that stuff where it's like special rock fill, where it's like, will you actually spend $15,000 on that category? Probably less. It's there because you're replacing old drainage ditch with curb and gutter, and you got to fill it with something. So how much of that they actually need to do, that'd probably be less. And the same thing with the paving too. When they pave up the street after they do the actual part of the intersection, that's variable. It depends on how far you got to go to make the grade work. Right. So if anything, I would say the contractor is going to have an eye to reduce that as much as they can rather than grow it. So
only if you're there.
Oh, I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there.
We'll all be there. Okay.
So I'd like to go back to IDOT and say, yes, we're happy to move forward with this. Let the contractor know within the notification period, which again is December 19th. I think 22nd is the actual cutoff date, but that's a Monday, so the 19th is a Friday. Close of business on Friday is when they need to be notified. IDOT said they were fine with us giving them an email. I'll send it out tomorrow morning and tell them that we're happy with we have the capacity to fund this project, and if that's what y'all would prefer. We're
we're improving. I think we can work with that.
And I do think that he will do that.
We have one final discussion item, tree ordinance.
Yes, so.
You're the man tonight.
I love the tree ordinance, and shout out to Kathleen Weber. Hi. She put this on my desk, and it makes a lot of sense. What this does is it enables us to continue to get the Trees Forever grant like annually. And this is the simplest possible way to meet their requirements. There are other options. We can pass a more comprehensive ordinance that establishes a tree board. But just to meet the minimum requirements, it puts most of the power in the Director of Public Works hands to administer all public trees, to be responsible and accountable for all those trees, and to coordinate with any other public departments that happen to be the owners of those trees, I guess is how you put it. It requires a couple other little things, like we have to maintain a list of desirable trees. It contains some verbiage about destruction of trees. Like we don't have that, I don't think, in our ordinances at all. That there's actually penalties for damaging public trees in this. It holds us to best management practices from the Arboricultural Society, which is great because it gives us a best practice framework to go from. And just in general, we're already doing like a large portion of what's in the ordinance. And so I think this is the simplest and best way to go. It'll make it so that we can just adopt it and hit the ground running. But if you would like, we can go back and look at the tree board language and bring that out. I think it is a 7-member board, and I think it would take responsibility off of me. It would take some time commitment off of me, but I'm not exactly sure how much, and how much that would still require coordination, and then how much that would delay the process, right? So if you have a 7-member board making decisions versus one person just directing a team, decisions are going to get made a lot faster.
We know how hard it is to staff.
It can be difficult.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
We've had that conversation.
Yeah.
We also, I think it's great. The details of how to make it work, I don't know that we can decide tonight, but I love this kind of idea. I really appreciate you bringing it to us. I think trees are an underappreciated element of a city plan.
I completely agree, and again, it's all thanks to Kathleen. She really made sure that I knew what I was doing and knew what I was getting into, and that I understood it well enough to present it. So if you like this, we can vote on it next session and start working it into the ordinance. Wonderful. All right. Thank you all very much. That's it for me tonight. I hope.
Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay. Council communications, Councilman Baker.
Well, I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Don't do much turkey. Just enjoy your time. Thank you, Mayor.
I have every intention of overeating. Councilman Comnick.
Yeah, same thing. Just be safe in your travels, and make sure you take the holiday to get some time in with family, friends, or all the above.
Councilman Cernovich.
Thank you, Chris. Hey, thank you very much for putting on, or whoever went into playing that with the visit at the wastewater treatment facility.
That was all Courtney.
Well, Courtney, thank you, and thanks to BAC employees as well. Very professional, incredibly professional. Kewanee should be proud of what we have going on out there, and proud of what we're going to be able to do together in the future. So thank you for that. And that's all I have. Happy Thanksgiving.
That was very informative and eye-opening, and
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it was.
No idea.
There's a ton of stuff going on out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And
Literally.
a very knowledgeable team.
Right.
I don't have much. Been a lot of talk about strategies for the city. And one thing that I think that we need to start thinking about is emergency procedures. We've had, two major events within the last couple of years. One of them, Mother Nature, and one of them because of human error, where a valve was struck and a good portion of Kewanee residents were without water. Right now, we don't have a contingency plan in place. If that happens again, how it's going to be handled. I think that's something we need to start thinking about, as a council, and then also get input from the community, how we can move forward, when we have these emergencies, so that people aren't without water for extended periods of time, and we get hit by 3 tornadoes in the same night again, how we're going to work the cleanup process so that it's done in a timely fashion. So I think that's one thing we need to start thinking about. And then I just want to say thank you to all our department heads that have really stepped up during the last few weeks. We're down a couple people, but department heads have stepped up in a tremendous way. And I especially want to point out Casey Mitchell and Courtney for really going above and beyond. I can't say enough about these 2 women and how much they have put themselves out there for the city of Kewanee. So anybody out there that's listening to this, if you see either one of these 2 individuals out there, you owe them a thank you. They're doing a tremendous job. And with that, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope everybody, like me, plans to overeat and has a good time. I do believe we have some city announcements.
Yes, we do. City Hall and the transfer station will be closed Thursday and Friday this week. Thursday's trash and recycling will be moved to Friday. This coming Wednesday and Saturday will be the last opportunities for burn days this year. And Monday, December 1st will be the last landscape pickup for this year as well.
With that, how about a motion to adjourn? Second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cernovich.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Comnic.
Aye.
Mayor Moore.
Aye.